I always get questions about the keto bread, so I thought I would create this video, the ultimate guide to keto bread. This is your ultimate video that is going to help you create the best keto bread you've ever tasted, and they won't even know it's keto. So what flour to use, what binding agents to use, whether you need to use a binding agent at all. I'm going to show you what it all looks like with those different binding agents, and then I'm also going to show you which flour is the best to use and which flour sort of works for different scenarios. So I'm going to be showing you all of this throughout this video. If you have any questions, please comment below and hit that like button along the way if you think this video has been helpful. Again, my name is Aaron. This is the Fat for Weight Loss channel. Let's start the video. So again, to test all the different binding agents out to start with, I need to be able to divide one whole recipe into 6 different types so I can test all of the different binding agents that I'm going to be using in this little test. So I have 2 cups of almond flour there, which was 200 grams. I have a half a cup of butter, which is 100 grams. Now all of this, I'm just working out the totals so that I can take a 1/6 of that and place them into their respective parts. So that's 7 eggs there, which is 390 grams, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, which works to be 30 grams. I have a half teaspoon of xanthan gum. Now I'm going to be using different binding agents, so I just need to work out what a 1/6 of that is, and half a teaspoon of salt. So that's all the ingredients. Now I need to mix them into separate bowls, and I need to make sure that they're all separate so that the binding agents don't sort of, mix together. But I'm putting all of the almond flour into each bowl, and then I'm going to be separating them out by binding agent. So I have xanthan gum, I have guar gum, I have gelatin, I have chia seeds, I have psyllium husk powder, and I also have without xanthan gum. So what does it look like when you don't use xanthan gum in the almond flour keto bread recipe? So to make sure it is consistent, I need to make sure that all of the wet ingredients are mixed together. So I have the egg whites there with the egg yolks, I'm mixing the butter in there as well, and I am mixing the melted coconut oil in as well. So I need to weigh the entire amount, and I just need to divide that into 6 parts. So I'll take one bowl at a time and put a 1/6 of the wet liquids into each of those bowls, and then I mix all of those up together with their respective binding agents and making sure that they're all very, very well mixed together before I add it to the oven. So I've got this little silicon mini loaf baking tray. It's from Kmart. I think they're about $5 now, but you can really easily test different types of bread in the different sections. So as I'm doing here, you probably don't want to fill them all the way to the top like I did, because when you try and get it into the oven, they sort of mix together a tiny little bit, but in any case, it will still work. And here are the different loaves coming out of the silicon. Make sure you're either using gloves or you've got pretty tough fingers, because they come out really, really hot. Either you let them cool down, but I was just really eager to see what they all looked like. So this is a pretty typical scenario for testing recipes, making sure that, the different breads are cooked all the way through. And I'm going to show you how they look when you actually cut them open on the inside. So to start with, this is the xanthan gum and almond flour. Now, I think this one is the best. The next one is gelatin with almond flour. So it sort of comes out at a cakey consistency. This is guar gum, and guar gum is very, very similar to xanthan gum in the way that it makes keto bread like this. Some chia seeds, so this one's sort of got a wholemeal sort of look. And then we have the psyllium husk, which turned out terrible because the psyllium husk all rose to the top. And this is the one without xanthan gum. So without xanthan gum actually still looks pretty good in terms of, this is the xanthan gum one on the right-hand side here. We have the gelatin one in the middle. So as you can see, it sort of almost looks like a cake. This next one is guar gum. So guar gum is probably the best replacement for xanthan gum if you're going for a very highly risen bread. Now, the multi-grain sort of chia seed looking one, it was pretty good as well. The psyllium husk, as I said before, terrible. Don't use psyllium husk. And this is the normal, just without xanthan gum at all. So here we are comparing the xanthan gum looking bread with a really nice crust along the top. This is the guar gum. So it's very, very similar to xanthan gum. It doesn't quite have the same sort of crust along the top, but it's still risen very well on the inside. The chia seed one hasn't risen quite as much. And then this is the one without xanthan gum. So as you can see, this is the one that hasn't risen much at all. So I'm comparing the one with gelatin and the one with chia seeds here. So the one with gelatin comes out very similar to a cake, whereas the one with chia seeds comes out very similar to a slice of wholemeal bread, I guess. The one with gelatin, if you added a little bit of erythritol to this, it would come out like a sponge cake. It's pretty awesome. And then the one on the right here, that is the chia seed one, and it pulls apart really nicely, but not quite as gelatinous as the one with gelatin in it, which is sort of understandable. Now, this is the guar gum version, the hot contender against xanthan gum. So as you can see, it's pretty flexible, which is nice, and it pulls apart really easily, and it holds its structure, which is great. Against the xanthan gum, it doesn't have quite the same crust like the xanthan gum one has on the top, and this slice of bread is just phenomenal. Like, that pulls apart just like normal bread, which is fantastic. Now, I'm comparing the xanthan gum on the right with the non-xanthan gum on the left. And as you can see, without xanthan gum, it doesn't rise anywhere near as much, and it gets a very, very different consistency and texture. So when you cut the one without xanthan gum, it's probably going to break slightly, and it hasn't risen as much, so it doesn't really have as much volume to it, whereas the one with xanthan gum has big air pockets in it, like if it was using gluten, and it's, this is the one without xanthan gum here. So as you can see, it breaks pretty easily, and it's going to, not really hold its texture very well. It always just crumbles without xanthan gum, as opposed to when you use xanthan gum here, you can bend it in half. You can literally bend it in half, and it becomes exactly like normal bread. It's crazy. So using xanthan gum is definitely recommended. Next up, the push test. This is the xanthan gum. So as you can see, you can push it down pretty hard and it's going to bounce right up. This is the gelatin one, so pretty good. This is the guar gum version, very good, very hot contender with xanthan gum. This is the chia seed version, so it's not quite as dense and stable, but it will hold together. This is the psyllium husk one, terrible. This one's no good. And this is the one without xanthan gum, so just almond flour. And as you can see, it will break apart. So this is what they look like from the top. As you can see, the xanthan gum one is sort of expanded. This is the one with gelatin, so it looks sort of like a cake again from on top. This is the guar gum version, very hot contender. The chia seed version, the psyllium husk version, terrible. And the normal one without xanthan gum. So the next test I'm doing is to see which flour works the best. So I have some coconut flour, I have some almond meal, I have some flaxseed meal, I have some hemp flour, I also have again some almond flour and some sesame seed flour. Now, it's going to be a little bit different with this one because I'm going to beat the egg yolks and the butter together, and then I'm going to do the egg whites separately because the two almond meal versions, I want to see which one works the best. If you have more egg whites or more egg yolks. So there's going to be two different types of the almond flour version, one with a little more egg white and then one with a little more egg yolk. Now they are all using xanthan gum and they're all going into the same baking tray as I used before. Same temperature, same amount of time in the oven. So it's going to be pretty consistent. It's going to be interesting how they come out. So these are going into the oven, 180 degrees Celsius. This is the almond flour version. This is the flaxseed version. So as you see, it's not quite as risen. This is the coconut flour version. This is the sesame seed version. Very nice there. This is the hemp flour version. And then this is the egg white version of the almond flour. So the first one, this one has a little more egg yolks in it. And this is how it slices. This one tastes normal. So this one is, I guess, probably as you would call a little bit eggy, but the one with the egg whites is a little less eggy. So if you want less eggy tasting bread, use more egg whites. This is the flaxseed version, so it sort of comes out like pumpernickel bread. This is the coconut flour version, and it's not, I just don't know about coconut flour. It doesn't really hold together that well. It's quite crumbly. It would make a good cornbread. This is the sesame seed flour version. Sesame seed flour is awesome, and it is nut free because it is a seed. This is probably the hottest contender with the almond flour, in my opinion. This is the hemp flour one. This is actually really, really good in terms of, holding itself together. This bread is fantastic, and look at the bend in that slice. There is no way that's coming out. And this is the egg white version. So as you see, this one has some really good volume to it. It's very flexible and it doesn't have much of an eggy taste. So reducing the amount of egg yolks in your almond bread can potentially be very good. Again, here we go. There's the push test that's happening. Good bounce back. The flaxseed version is pretty much like a brick. It doesn't really move much at all. The coconut flour version, again, it's pretty, unstable. This is the sesame seed version. Very good bounce back. Very, very good, which is amazing. The hemp flour version, Again, this one's pretty solid, but it's got some good bounce. And then this one is probably the best by far. I don't think I could break this one very easily. So the best way to store all of this is in a glass container in the fridge. So I hope you found this video really useful. If you like content like this, make sure you hit the like button below and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see me make more videos like this, the next one I'm doing like this one is for chocolate chip cookies. So if you've ever wondered how to make chocolate chip cookies and you're not sure what flours or binding agents you should be using, then that video is coming up next. If you want me to do another comparison video like this for any other recipes, make sure you comment below, because this is something that I think a lot of people will find very useful. So again, my name is Aaron, this is the Fat for Weight Loss channel, and I will see you in the next video.